Here's where it gets interesting. The word covenant in the Greek, and I'm not going to go through all the pronouncing, do that, but it doesn't matter. Just write it if you're taking note. We get this in the Greek translation, and that's for our first, Greek and Latin and so forth. We get these words. This is where we get contract, will, and testament. Old Testament, Old Covenant, New Testament, New Covenant, and so forth, so on. So we get from the Greek word testament or will or contract. And so I understand a covenant is a testament or a contract, and so forth, between two mutual parties. That's the Greek interpretation, how they define it. And most of our understanding is pulling from the Greek, where we get testament and will. Let's go back and get to some of the original writing and get the word like I did with faith. We all translate the New Testament word pistos and so forth and so on. So let's go back and pull what the writing words that were used to show what the true intent of what was being said is based on not just the Greek interpretation of that word, but the setting of it. Okay, so this is the Greek translation where we get testament and contract and that kind of thinking. However, when you go to the Old Testament, and there are the two words that it comes from, you can write it down. And it translates, now this is the definition of covenant here. It pulls the word confederacy. I mean, all of the years we've been teaching about this covenant thing, and here we come up, and if you can pull it up and look at it, it'll come right up. But we only teach the Greek's interpretation of it, and a lot of times you got to go back to the original meaning and the context. You'll get a different understanding of what is being said here. So if I was to interpret that based on what the Greek word, you will have contract and so forth. But if I go back to the Hebrew here and translate that, I get this word confederacy. And if you click on that, it gives you more synonyms. It means actually an alliance or coalition. Good God Almighty. A union or partnership. So covenant is not merely a contract, because, and it is, but contracts can be broken. But this right here, it spells out something that can't be broken. I mean, you cannot fulfill it or honor it, but it's not going to be broken. So God is going to fulfill this end no matter what. But I mean, it has to do with a coalition. So look at this now, an alliance. So look at what he's saying. So if the just lives by covenant, then the just lives and survives and recovers and flourishes by an alliance with God, or becoming in a union with God. That's in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 6:17. They that are joined unto the Lord, united with him, are one spirit with him. It means a coalition or a partnership. You can look at it for yourself. It also means hookup. So look, let's put this to go right home. So the just man lives because he's hooked up with God. And if you look up the word, that comes up. So that's not just me putting up a word there. It's in the definition. Touch somebody and say, I got the hookup. That's why I make it. That's why I come back. That's why I bounce back. That's why I survive. I got the hookup. And I'm hooked up to God. Come on, tell somebody else and say, I got the hookup. Come on, say somebody else, I got the hookup. Talk to yourself and say, you got the hookup. You hooked up with God. look at this, look at this. So the just person survived because they got the hookup. They hooked up with God. Hookup is the definition of confederacy, which is a synonym of covenant. The just survived because they got the hookup.
Yes.
They hooked up with God.
Thank you, Lord.
I mean, I got special insight, special connection.
Oh, yeah.
I get a special discount.
Yes.
I get special favors.
Yes. Come on, Ralph.
I get the lowdown on the rundown. I always know what's going on because I can pick up the phone and call and get the info before it takes place. I know who's going down and who's going up. Why? Because I got inside info. I'm hooked up with the source.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Thank you, man.
That makes sense to you?
Thank you.
Now here's where it gets interesting. From the second word, korath, we get this word, covenant. Means cutting the flesh and passing between.
Come on.
That's the definition of covenant in the OT. Cutting the flesh and passing between. What does that mean? Okay. On the west, you see this? The Indians had a practice that they would cut their wrist, and if you cut yours, and we put it, you can pass through my territory, no harm will come.
Yes.
Because the cutting is blood to blood. Meaning we become what we get the word blood brothers. Thank you. That means you connected to me. Isn't it amazing that when they translate the word covenant, God says, you survived because I created a situation for you to become a blood brother of Jesus. Hey! And so what the devil does to you, he's doing it all. And because we are a union and an allowance, hallelujah. If I'm faltering and can't win, I can always summons my blood brother who's known to never lose a fight, who's known to win every battle. It's the cutting of the flesh and putting the God. So in other words, when Paul says, I want you to crucify your flesh and to sacrifice it, it actually means the cutting. And he takes the crucified flesh of man with the crucified flesh of Jesus and hooked you up together. Now I can say, he was wounded for my transgressions, bruised for my iniquities. We are blood brothers. And the blood is what established the covenant, that the covenant is sealed and cannot be broken. Cut the flesh. So if you don't cut this flesh, you can't enter into covenant with God. Uh-oh. Without the shedding of blood, there's no remission. Covenant is the cutting of the flesh and the passing. So the scripture confirms, I didn't put all this on the board, that when we come to Christ, his righteousness is passed on to us.
Yes.
And our sins are taken on by him. God Almighty. So I'm saved by his righteousness.
Yes.
Thank you, Lord Jesus. And so he's bared my sin, iniquity in his own body.
Yes.
It's passed on. So when God looks at me, thank you, Jesus. He does not see me, but he sees Christ, whose righteousness has been passed on to me. And the blood fusion is the sealing of the covenant. But without the blood fusion, you have no covenant, which means that God is not under obligation to do anything for you. But if you're in the covenant, that means somewhere along the line I got to talk to you. This flesh got to be cut, crucified, sacrificed, laid on the altar. Thank you, Lord God. Remember when they took the old lambs and ram, whatever, they laid them on the altar and they took the sword and they cut the flesh so that the blood can run down. And they took the blood and they sprinkled it on everything. And whatever they sprinkled the blood on, it was made holy and it was purified and sanctified. Thank you, Jesus. So they took the blood and sprinkled it on the priest so he can go and minister. That's what Jesus done. God has done for us in Christ. He's taken his blood and sprinkled it. But for it to apply, you have to lay yourself on the altar. Be willing to cut this flesh, to crucify. Your blood runs. He takes your sin upon himself, and you takes his righteousness as a fusion. And then you're in covenant with God. That's covenant.